Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello, and welcome to this episode, this first one of a series that I am going to be doing probably monthly, but maybe weekly. And it goes along with the work that I do in restaurants with the Amuse Bouche, which is a light bite, like a palate cleanser, something to get your taste buds going. It was how I see it. And I wanted to kind of do the same thing to give you some light bites, some snippets of things that you can do as a leader, as a business owner, as a CEO, as a manager in your business to really help you navigate a lot of the stuff that we are going through right now, as well as also give you some snippets and some information, some actionable items that you can take to work on planning. We're coming into the last quarter of 2025, going into 2026. So I'm going to be giving you some actionable tips as to how I do planning in my own business, but also how I coach business leaders, business owners to do planning in their business. And it's not just regular planning. It's, really aligning your vision and your strategy, and then your strategy and your team so that they understand, what they're working towards, why they're working towards it, and can really help you to co-create that success. But today we are definitely talking about leadership, and we are talking about how do you lead through change and challenge and transformation when the majority of the people on your team are challenge adverse or do not like change or are risk adverse. How do you do that? And I have this conversation with people a lot that I work with, whether it's with team members that I'm actually leading or it's with clients of mine when we're talking about their team and a lot of the things that they've had to navigate. I know a lot of CEOs, a lot of executives have had to navigate, all of the ups and downs in the economy, all of the challenges with supply chains. I mean, I am heavily involved in the hospitality industry, restaurants and retail, and just navigating tariffs and navigating rising costs and all of the things that you need to do, understanding all of the changes, the rapid changes in technology. I mean, you constantly have stuff thrown at you about AI, and you need to implement this in AI, and AI is going to replace jobs and blah, blah, blah. It can get super overwhelming. And when you're a CEO, when you are a leader, many times over, it can feel like you're making all of these challenging decisions, all of these important decisions, and it feels like you're doing it alone. And I'm here to tell you, you're not, which is why I want to do these little snippets, these amuse bouche every week. Thought it would be something different and to really help you to get through a lot of these things that come up. I don't care what industry you're in. I think the challenge with all of the changes the world has gone through, all of the changes businesses have gone through, but just also people and the impact of what's happening globally or what's happening on the outside really has a huge impact of what's happening on the inside of our business. But I also believe, if you know me and you follow me for some time, I believe that we need to build from the inside out. Meaning, if we can fix and build what's happening inside of our business and make it healthy, then we can fix and repair and help what's happening outside of our business and society. So change is absolutely one of those things. You hear a lot people say, no one likes change. People don't like change. And the truth is some people don't. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but some people don't. But then there's other people who actually thrive on it. And we're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to talk about, what do you do? Like, what happens when people don't want to lean into change? And what can you do as a leader if your business is going through some kind of a transformation, or, you need to make a bunch of changes, whether it is with the people on your team, or it's with your business model, or it's just with, processes and just structure in your business. I know a lot of people who have been functioning. I know a lot of business owners who have been functioning in the way that they used to do things 5, 10 years ago, even 2 years ago, and are wondering why the business is struggling and why they keep running into challenges. And I'm not saying you need to make these huge changes, but these small changes, like stacked up, make a huge difference. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But this whole thing of talking about this topic came from a conversation I was having with someone on my team. And he leads an area, this is in the hospitality industry, but he leads an area that we have had a lot of change with over the past year and a half. And it started with really navigating some changes in leadership that were presenting a lot of challenges to the business, and I needed to make a change in that business and really work on changing up leadership. But then outside of that, navigating some adversity that happened, unexpected adversity. We had a fire in the one business, and it was just one thing after another, and it just felt like you were constantly navigating challenge and change. So I was having a conversation with this leader, and like I said, he is a leader of an entire area in a business. And just having a conversation about, I have this vision, and his vision aligns with the bigger vision of the business. And just the challenges that he was having, because we made some more changes with the leadership that report to him that he works with, made some more changes, and not everybody was okay with it. Not everybody understood. And having this conversation with him, and he said to me, he said, I just don't know what to do. Like, I feel so stressed, and I feel like I'm trying to push a boulder up a hill, which I hear a lot, and I can't get people on board. Like, I can't get them on board to understand what it is that we're working towards. And it comes down to the change thing. So I said to him, I said, look, first and foremost, and I'm telling anybody who's listening today, listening and watching, the one thing that you need to focus on, no matter what, especially when you're navigating challenge and adversity that is impacting your business and impacting your team. First and foremost is that you need to, no matter what it is, you need to summon the best of who you are. You need to become the difference maker and the change maker. And it's a lot. And this is where I talk about, and this is in my book that I'm writing, but I talk a lot about that comes from the internal work that we need to do as a leader. That comes from the work that we need to do to summon the best of who we are, to regulate our emotions when high stress situations happen, or high stress conversations need to happen, how we can regulate those emotions and zoom out from what's going on so that we can assess the situation and really come at it from a place of right intention, integrity, and just taking the best action that we know to take. So the first thing I said to him, and I had another conversation with someone this morning who, again, was navigating some adversity and a lot of change that she just made in her business model. in her business model and how they were switching up some of her offers. And the thing is that the first thing you need to remember is your job as the leader, as the CEO, is to summon the best of who you are. And I know in stressful times, it's really hard. It can be very, very hard to do. But the thing that you need to remember is that you need to be the change maker, that you need to be the one that's going to communicate why things are changing, why you're doing what you're doing, and really understand not everyone is going to agree with it. And there needs to be, and you're going to hear me talk about this, there needs to be a dance between being convicted in these changes and these things that you need to do, that you need to implement and why they need to happen, but also being adaptable to hearing other perspectives, perspectives that you may not have even thought of, perspectives that may not have come up in maybe the conversations you've had with trusted advisors that you've talked to, but we have to be open to hearing them. And that's really at the heart of that conviction and adaptability is learning to be an empathetic leader. And people throw around the word empathy a lot right now. And it's not just a buzzword. And the way that I look at it, and it's not, people also confuse empathy and sympathy. And the way that I look at it is that empathy is your ability to recognize the reality, the harsh reality of what's going on in business these days and kind of how that impacts everything, but also at the same time being able to look beyond that and find solutions, be willing to try and figure it out, and also be willing to hear and see the people that you're working with every day. So it's understanding that, yeah, there are some challenges that we need to deal with, but at the same time, being able to also know that challenge leads to growth and challenge leads to finding better solutions. And challenge also leads to building deeper connection with the people that you're connected with every single day. And that comes from your ability to listen, to ask good questions and listen. And that's one of the key things when we talk about navigating transformation is really being able to listen, to hear what people are saying, to hear what their frustrations are. And some of them you might have to, work through and sift through, but be willing to hear them. Be willing to hear what's underneath those frustrations, what's underneath all of the emotion that comes up when people are frustrated, when people are stressed, when people are angry, what's underneath those emotions. And normally what's underneath it is a desire for something. And it's up to us as leaders to try and figure some of that out that is within something that we can do something about. If it's not, we kind of have to separate that out. But I think the first part is to really approach challenges and change and transformation with empathy and not force, not saying, this is the way that it's going to be. This is what I'm doing. End of story. There is no debate. This is what we're doing. And it's in some ways, I will say, sometimes, yes, there are certain things where we need to say, this is how we need to do it. And here's why we need to do it this way. I'm willing to hear and listen to what you have to say, but really this is why we need to do it this way because it's the right way. So there is an element of that. But I think more often than not, it's just a matter of listening and understanding and being able to explain the harsh realities of what the situation is or what happens when you're trying to grow a business and lead a team, but then also be willing to honor that struggle and honor that challenge and be willing to see people. So with change, there are 3 things that people do with change or with challenge. The first one is, you can probably guess, is they resist it. They resist it, they avoid hard conversations, they avoid challenging situations, they avoid doing the hard thing, like, even during the day. Like, I talk to people about productivity all the time, and they tell me I'm overwhelmed, and I'm like, "Let me see your calendar," and there's nothing on there. So and the reason why people resist it and avoid it is because even though they might be in a place that they are super frustrated about, or they are tired of just being the firefighter, or they're tired of being the person that's got to deal with all of the difficult conversations. So what they do is they avoid it, but they avoid it because they don't want to lean into that unknown of actually digging through this hard conversation. So they prolong stuff, and when we prolong it, we make the pain of it even worse. But in some form, resisting it and avoiding growth is comfortable for them. So you will have people who will resist it, but what you resist persists. So if they resist having the difficult conversation, that difficult conversation, and this goes for you as well, that difficult conversation, prolonging it makes the pain of prolonging it even worse and makes the conversation that you need to have even harder. So instead of resisting it, this is where we need to be transparent about the changes that are happening, the transformation that needs to happen in order to lean into it. So the second thing that people do with challenge and change is they just want to deal with it. They want to deal with it and they want to handle it. So they're recognizing that change and transformation needs to happen. So in the example of the leader that I was talking to on that leads the area in one of the businesses that I'm involved with, it was, okay, you know what? I'm going to get through just resisting the change, and I'm just going to deal with it. I'm just going to handle it. So it's the recognizing that something needs to change, the recognizing that, you know what? I have the ability to figure this out, and I'm going to try. I'm going to try and figure it out. I don't have all the answers, but I'm at least going to try. And the third thing is that they lean into it. They lean into it and they say, you know what? This challenge actually lights me up because I know on the other side of this, I'm going to learn something bigger from it. I'm going to come up with a bigger solution from this change and this transformation that I need to go through. So resisting stuff, actually resisting change, resisting challenge, resisting transformation in your business actually costs your business a lot of money. So if you're holding on to employees, think about it. If you're holding on to some toxic employees or employees who aren't doing their job, and you're holding on to these people because you don't want to have the difficult conversation because you want to be nice, if you think about it, if it's costing your business, let's just say $200,000 a year or 200, yeah, let's say $200,000 a year, and you have 2 or 3 employees that aren't doing their job, that cause a lot of problems, that are resistant to change consistently no matter what you do. If you think about that, holding on to them costs you 200,000. If you hold on to them a little bit longer, maybe it costs you 300,000. It adds up after a while, right? So resisting it makes the cost of resisting it even worse, even higher. When we deal with it and we handle it, that's how we can start to see growth in our business, because we're saying, hey, you know what? I'm willing to figure this out. I'm willing to figure out what we need to do to decrease our food cost in our restaurant, or to change some roles around in the business so that we have someone who needs to do XYZ, someone who needs to do receiving, someone who needs to do purchasing, someone in that position who is more aligned with what the role needs. So when we do that, that's how we can actually start to grow. And then when we lean into change and challenge, when we really lean into it, we say, you know what? Like this challenge, I'm welcoming this challenge because I know I can figure this out, and I know what's on the other side of it is going to be big. And that's how we can start to scale our business, but also that's how we can start to expand our thinking. That's how we can start to expand our creativity. And expanding our creativity and expanding and tapping into that imagination, that's not something AI is going to give you. That's something that only human beings can do, right? So, as I said, when people resist change, they're sitting in their comfort zone. And again, it's so weird how human behavior works, but people will complain and complain and complain about something. They'll complain that the way that we do this is too complex. They'll complain that so and so is not doing their job. They'll complain that we don't have, whatever. Like they complain about stuff. But then when you want to start implementing some changes, then all of a sudden it's, oh, no, no, we don't want that. Because it's easier and it's more comfortable for them to stay in their comfort zone and be uncomfortable, to have that pain of being stuck. People like gravitate more towards pain. And when you have a lot of people in a department, or you have a group of people who are always the people who are gossiping and causing drama and speaking negatively, it just becomes like a contagion and it just will spread. So, and some of those people actually thrive on that drama, which can get extremely challenging when you are trying to make changes and they're kind of putting roadblocks up at every angle. So with the rate of change that's happening in the world, we have to be willing to push through those roadblocks, push through those challenges, because as a business and as people, we constantly need to be growing. We constantly need to be looking at what's happening in our industry. We're staying ahead of just what's going on in the world, and how can we fill a gap, or how can we continue to grow as leaders? Because that's what's going to keep things moving forward. And the people that are the naysayers, remember what I said in the beginning of this, it's getting to the underlying, why is this happening? Why are they feeling the way that they're feeling, and trying to uncover what is the fact behind all of that. And it might be they're just not right for the organization. And that's where we have to go back to not being afraid to have that conversation. So number 2 is that when your vision grows, and I said this to the leader the other day, when your vision grows, and as you are moving through change, and as you are thinking about, how can I figure this out, and what is it that I want to build, and what is it that we want to do here? As your vision grows, it is going to stretch, and it's also going to demand. So now we get to a demand level. So first we were in the comfort zone. Now we're getting into a demand zone, because it demands everyone to play at a higher level. So with this business I was referring to, and the challenges and adversity that they've gotten through and that they've experienced, things needed to be rebuilt. Changes needed to happen. Transformation needed to happen. People needed to be moved around. People had to leave. And now, as the dust is kind of settling and the foundation is being built, it's demanding that everyone play at a higher level, because the vision now is getting solidified and it's growing. And what happens is, when that happens, people start to get into flow and the energy starts to increase. People talk about vibration, the vibration starts to increase. And what happens is, then the business is growing, the vision is growing. Now the people need to catch up. And if they don't catch up, friction starts to happen. And that's when you get adversity in a business. That's when culture starts to break down. All right. And we have to, at that level, when you're being called to a higher level, that's when you have to have that willingness to figure things out. And the last one is that flow zone. So being in the flow zone is where everyone can start to see, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. These are the challenges that we're facing. And you know what? Like, whatever is happening outside, because we've had a lot happen in this world. We've had a lot happen in this country over the past several weeks, and there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of things that are being said. And as a leader, we have to continue to stay above the line and to continue to be the light. And that goes back to what I said, is summoning the best of who you are, no matter what is happening, and learning how to regulate those emotions, learning how to regulate and become that difference maker. And I believe that no matter what is happening, we always have the ability within inside of our business to continue to be the change maker and to continue to say, okay, how can we navigate this? How can we take this challenge and how can we grow from it? The business that I have that had the fire, we looked at that and said, you know what? In some ways, things needed to get burned down so that we could build them back up. And it took a long time, but now we're starting to build things back up. So when we get into that flow zone and we are summoning the best of who we are, that's when we can really get into alignment with the vision that we have and the future that we want to build. So 3 things that you can do to get people to start to not just deal with change and challenge, but to really lean into it and be willing to understand or try and understand what's happening, but even more so to be willing to learn from it and find amazing solutions. And how we can really start to embrace that being an empathetic leader, acknowledging the harsh realities of the situation, acknowledging that change and challenges are difficult, but at the same time, using that challenge to build stronger connection with your team, to find better solutions, and to really see and hear people. So the 3 things that you could do are, number 1, define your vision. Like really kind of say, and it's not just the vision for like the next 3 years. I'm talking about the vision for navigating this change. So step 1, what I told the leader was to summon the best of who you are. Step 2, and that means he needed to do things differently than the way that he was always doing them. So step 2 was, I want you to define your vision for how you're restructuring this area of the business. How are you restructuring the roles? What is the vision for this area? What are you trying to accomplish and why? Really getting people to understand, as a friend of mine says, the because. We're doing this because why? It makes it strong. It solidifies it. And it creates a level of transparency. So that's the first one. Number 2 is to start setting a plan with your team. So once you have that vision of why we're doing what we're doing, like here's the because behind it, as my friend Mick says, and why we're doing this, okay? And then, okay, I know acknowledging this is going to be challenging, but we're in this together. And here's why it's challenging. Costs are high. We're trying to navigate expenses. We're trying to reduce this. We're trying to figure out how we can implement AI into our business, because the rest of the industry says we should do it this way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to do it this way. We can do it the way that we want to do it. That works best for us. That works best for our customers. So like acknowledging all of that, but then having the empathy, implying empathy, the adaptability to say, we're going to co-create this together. We're going to set a plan. We're going to set a strategy of how we're going to do this. And each person is going to play a role in this. So that's where we can really start to set the desired result that we're trying to achieve and why. But then we can also put some routines in place to make sure that each one of us are holding each other accountable. And then the third thing is, and this is most important, it goes back to the first thing that I said, be the example. In challenge, in adversity, There are going to be ups and downs. There are gonna be times when things are gonna be great as you're moving through stuff, and there are gonna be times when things are not gonna be so good, and there are gonna be times when it's just gonna be meh. Be the example. Be the person, have that intellectual humility to say, "You know what? When a decision is made and maybe it wasn't the right decision." I mean, we put a leader in place and we thought, "Oh, this is gonna be a great, like, this person's gonna be able to lead this area of the business fabulously." And it did not work. And you know what? I was able to say, "Hey, you know what? It wasn't the best decision. I don't always make the right decisions and I don't always have all the answers, but we tried it. We leaned into it. We did the best that we could to make it work and it didn't work. So what did we need to do? We needed to part ways. We needed to pivot. And we didn't sit on it for a long time and avoid the difficult conversation. We leaned into it and made the change." So be the example. Be the person that can regulate and not get mired down in all of the stuff that's going on with the economy or all of the stuff that's going on, like, just all around the world. Be the leader that can show your team and really highlight for your team a bigger vision of what's possible for them and for the collective. That's what we need to do as leaders when we are trying to lead this transformation. And I can tell you this, with the rate of change that's happening in the world and how things are, as a leader, yes, we need to stay above. We need to kind of like constantly have our ears and our eyes open as to what's happening and be able to look at it and say, okay, is this something that we need to implement or no? And we can't do that if we're constantly firefighting, if we're constantly involved in every single decision, and if we're constantly overwhelmed on a hamster wheel, feeling stressed. We have to be able to rise above that. Like I said, we want to be the leader that can really speak and live into a vision of what's possible for each individual on the team and the collective if we can all lean into challenge and change. And if you are if you are experiencing this and you're saying, "Oh, like, I am navigating this right now. I am trying to navigate, like, taking care of my stakeholders." Maybe you're a big enough business where you are public and you have shareholders and you're trying to please them, but also do what's right for the team and you're feeling a little stuck. Well, I actually have something that I am doing. I call it the C-suite snapshot. And what it is basically it's you submit a bunch of information and then we actually go over it together. And we start to develop a plan as to where your gaps are, but also where the opportunities are. And from there, we start to say, okay, how can you navigate through this? How can you get to that point where you can lean into these changes that are happening and feel confident about it? Where you don't feel like you would have someone right by your side, a wing woman, who is helping you to navigate all of these things so that you don't feel alone. And at the end of the day, you're summoning the best of who you are. So if you're interested in this, the link will be below. If you go to theresacantley.com/business/audit and apply for the C-suite snapshot. And let's see what we can come up with and let's see what we can do to get you back on the right track. So I hope that this helped you. Businesses are going through a lot of transformation right now, and it's not an easy thing to navigate, but when you have the right tools and resources, you can get through it and you can thrive through it. And with a lot of businesses that I see, businesses who have been operating the same way that they've been operating for 5, 10 years, who aren't willing to lean into change, they're going to run into a lot, like, as things move forward, as we get into 2026, as technology continues to shift. I don't want that for you. I want you to be able to thrive. I want you to be able to transform your business and your team and become who you're meant to become, who you want to become so that you can achieve a huge level of success, the success that you want. So I hope that this helped you. And until next time, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.